What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to dive into the Boston Celtics offseason. And because the Eastern Conference Finals just wrapped up, our guy Brian Windhorst from ESPN dropped a couple of alpha nuggets, some rumors that are going to kickstart the offseason. Now, a couple of insiders in the NBA have been stating that this offseason is going to be one of the most wild ones we've seen in a while. Now, we know that's not going to be due to free agency because in previous videos, we've already gone over the eligible NBA free agents right now, and there's nothing very exciting about that. It's a lot of player options, and then it's guys with team options, and then it's, I don't know, Brook Lopez, and that's not really moving the dial for me. So what we're going to do is take a look at some of these big ideas that have started to be floating around the league a little bit. But before we do that, if this is your first time here, hey, do me a favor, hit the little subscribe button so you know the next time we're dropping some of that sweet Celtics content. But now let's start with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So Windhorst on the television on ESPN came out there and said that with the Eastern Conference being wide open, the move for Giannis is if he has control to go to the East. So it sounds like Giannis wants to stay in the East. Windhorst went on to say you have to look at the teams that could make a trade for Giannis that the Bucks would accept, and the other side of the trade would have a contending team. So Boston would be on that list. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting for Windhorst to include Boston in that. Now, you have to do some real gymnastics, both mental and financial, to actually get the Greek Freak over to Beantown. You would have to make a bunch of different moves because, as we've talked about ad nauseum so far, the second apron, the collective bargaining agreement, all that stuff, it makes it really hard for a team that's already spending a lot of money to trade for someone that is worth a lot of money. And guess what? Giannis is worth a lot of money. So I'm just going to throw out a couple of scenarios, and I want to shout out the CelticsBlog.com for breaking this down. Now, again, the likelihood of this happening is slim to freaking none. But the fact that Windhorst went out there and said something, remember, Windhorst, the guy, fingers up in the air, and then all of a sudden the Utah Jazz blew it up. Remember that? There's still a little bit, when there's a little bit of smoke, there has to be something there. So these are the moves the Celtics have to make just to become eligible to trade for Giannis, because they have to get under the aprons, right? So the first thing they would have to do is include the Charlotte Hornets and the Utah Jazz to get rid of Porzingis. So in this scenario, Celtics are going to take Grant Williams and Josh Okogie. I'm sure you're going to have to Google who Josh Okogie is. But Grant Williams comes back, so I'm going to make them both welcome back. Kristaps Porzingis is going to the Utah Jazz, and then John Collins would be coming over to the Charlotte Hornets. So that is just so they can get under some cash. That deal right there would save the Celtics $9 million and get them $10 million over the second apron, which means another move needs to be made. Here come the Golden State Warriors, who we know are in win-now mode after trading for Jimmy Butler, and again, probably would have been in the Western Conference Final if not for that Steph Curry injury that happened against the Timberwolves, right? So now everyone's going to be mad because Derek White, you are on your way to Golden State. Moses Moody and Buddy Hield, you are on your way back here. Now, it's also going to include Golden State's first-round picks in 2028, 2030, and 2032. The 2030 pick is actually owed to the Washington Wizards if it is if it's like pick 21 to 30, due to the Jordan Poole, Chris Paul trade. Jordan Paul sounds weird, but the Jordan Poole, Chris Paul trade. So that gives the Celtics a bunch of different pick assets, right? And then it's Moses Moody and Buddy Hield, who honestly are probably going to get traded anyways, right? Because the reason you have to go get some of those picks is not only to continue to get under the cap, but you also need some more assets to give to Milwaukee. Because when we get to the Milwaukee side of the trade, they're not going to go like Giannis for Jaylen Brown straight up, right? That's not going to do it for them. So that deal that we just went over, the 3 picks from Golden State plus Moses Moody and Buddy Hield for Derek White, that saves the Celtics $7 million. So they would be just about $3 million over the second apron. But then from that early draft that we did, the early trade we did with Okogie, you could take Okogie, you could also take Buddy Hield and attach one of the picks that we've gotten from the Spurs Warriors 2028 first round, because now we've got those 2 picks in 2028, attach the worst one, and then just move that money. So a team that has some space could do that. Kind of like when Boston traded for Jaden Springer, or when they traded Jaden Springer to the Rockets. They were like, here you go, and we'll throw a little pick on there. So now, all of a sudden, we are underneath the cap. but that still does not get us to Giannis Antetokounmpo just yet. So what the Celtics would need to do here they would need to save a total of 16 million, right, to get under the second apron, so they'd be able to fill out the hypothetical Giannis trade. Now, this is what this would look like. So assuming the Celtics can do all of those moves just to financially be allowed to do the Giannis trade, this is what it could look like. And again, this is coming from the CelticsBlog.com. If you want like a full breakdown, go check it out. But a deal could be Giannis for obviously Jaylen Brown, Jordan Walsh, the Celtics 2026 or 2027 first round pick, the Warriors 2030 first round pick, the Warriors 2032 first round pick, and a 2031 pick swap via the Celtics. The 26 or 27 pick would be a choice of what Milwaukee wants, similar to what we saw with like the AD and the Lakers trade and the Harden 76ers trade. So that's all of the stuff that you would need to get for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, some of you might be saying that's way too much. Why would we do something like that? Well, Giannis is a top 3 MVP candidate every single year for like the last decade. He's won the MVP a couple times. He's a finals champion. Like, Giannis is one of the best players in the world. He is in that short list with Jokic and SGA right now, and then Luka too for a little bit, but Giannis does it on both ways. And if the Bucks are really going to cut ties with a player of this caliber, it's going to cost a lot because they don't have to trade him, right? And we know Giannis wants to stay in the East, and we know he wants to be on a competitive team, but I don't think there's a world where Giannis is like, trade me to Boston or I'm sitting out. He just does not have that bone in him, right? He's been nothing but loyal to the Milwaukee fan base. I don't think that means he won't be on another team, but I don't think he's going to force his way out of Boston. And if he's not forcing his way out, it gives Milwaukee a little bit of leverage, right, where they can find the best available deal. Now, I don't think this is the worst thing in the world, right? You're getting Jaylen Brown, who, again, a lot of you in the comments will say is overpaid and not as good as you think as he is, but Jaylen Brown, you're getting an all-star, you're getting an all-NBA player, you're getting a finals MVP, you're getting Jordan Walsh, who's like, a young guy with a little bit of upside, but not too much. But then what you're getting is all of those first-round picks, and that allows Milwaukee to do a couple of things. You could move those picks to try to build around this Jaylen Brown core with Damian Lillard. You could use those picks you could even ship out some of the other older talent and be like, hey, we're just going to be bad this year, and then Dame comes back, you have Dame, Jaylen Brown, and then you start attracting some assets. So there's a couple of different ways that could work for Milwaukee. But if we're being honest, I don't see this happening. I just don't see Milwaukee sending Giannis to Boston. There's some rumors about Toronto, that Toronto might be in there trying to go big fish hunting, and I could see that making a little bit more sense just because Toronto has the right type of assets, I think, to help them rebuild. Instead of like with Jaylen Brown, that's like a fast start rebuild, right? You don't necessarily want an all-star in their prime if you're trying to rebuild, where Toronto, again, makes a little bit more sense. And now, with the Knicks being eliminated from the playoffs, there's a world in which they try to get spicy and get Giannis to New York. And then there's also like teams where, you put Giannis on Miami, all of a sudden they're a 3 seed, you put Giannis, like there's a lot of different options. So if I had to bet, if I was a betting man, Mr. Antetokounmpo would be staying on the Milwaukee Bucks next year. But for Windhorst to go out there and say he expects there to be a lot of moving and shaking this offseason from big names and to like name drop Boston, it's definitely something we have to keep an eye on. Something else that Windhorst mentioned, which was kind of bummed me out a little bit, with the Knicks being eliminated and clearly them needing some help as a cheaper big man, assuming they lose somebody like Mitch Robinson, who proved to be like one of their best players on their team this year, mentioning Al Horford maybe heading to New York. And I think it was actually Tim Bontemps from the Hoop Collective podcast with Brian Windhorst who mentioned that Al would be a really good fit. He would make a ton of sense there. He's got a really strong relationship with Karl Anthony Towns. So I don't know. I still lean that Al, similar to Giannis, that Al would come back to Boston if he's to come back at all, because there's still the percentage that a chance that he retires. But I thought it was interesting. Again, anytime reporters that are super in the know specifically name drop a team like that, it means that there is definitely an opportunity for that to happen. So I think that would break my heart. I mean, I want to see Al Horford play competitive playoff basketball. I don't know if I want to see him do it for the Knicks, though. I don't want to see that. So we'll have to stay tuned. The other thing I was thinking about a little bit more over the weekend is if the Celtics did run it back, like let's just assume it's just Drew Holiday that's not on this team next year. Drew goes, they still have Porzingis, they still have Sammy Hauser still there, Luke, Al, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard. Where do you think this Celtics team lands in the Eastern Conference? And again, assuming there's no Jason Tatum, right? Let's stop speculating. If Jason Tatum comes back after the All-Star break, we can all celebrate. You can dunk on me, call me an idiot like that. Like, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But let's keep the bar low so that if that does happen, we can just rejoice instead of being disappointed that it didn't happen earlier. But if they do run it back with the roster that I just pointed out, where do you think they land in the Eastern Conference? Assuming it sounds like Cleveland's going to run it back, they might move Jared Allen. There's an off chance they move Darius Garland, but if they move one of those guys, it's not like they're becoming worse. They're trying to at least maintain what they had. So I imagine Cleveland's still up there. Indiana, the only piece that they could really lose, it looks like, is Miles Turner, maybe Benedict Mathurin, but it sounds like Miles Turner wants to stay in Indiana. And you go to the finals, you got to run that back, right? So I'm assuming Indiana, for like the first time in 25 years, is going to pay the tax. So I'll put Indiana up there. And the Knicks, again, outside of them throwing a grenade, shout out Ja Morant, in trying to acquire somebody like Giannis or Kevin Durant, I think that team is probably back next year, and they should have no problem winning a ton of regular season games. When it gets to the playoffs, who knows? But besides those three teams, is there anybody that you're confidently saying is going to be ahead of Boston? Right, Detroit, they do get their young guy Jaden Ivey back. They're coming off an impressive year, but you don't know what that. Like Tim Hardaway Jr. could not be there. Malik Beasley could not be there. Like, how are they going to develop as a young team? Still a lot of question marks. Orlando Magic, are they finally going to go get a guard? Or is it still just going to be the Paolo and Franz show? They could be up there though. 76ers, does Joel Embiid actually stay on the court? Or are they just a mess again? And then who else are you worried about? Like Milwaukee, we don't know if Giannis is there or not. Miami, they haven't proven to be like with the current roster. I'm not scared of Miami. The Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, like, you know what I'm saying? The East is just so bad. So I was thinking more about it. If they run it back, are they hosting a first round playoff series? Do you think the Boston Celtics is currently constructed without Jason Tatum? Let's remove Drew Holiday, maybe another role player. Do you think they can finish top 4 in the Eastern Conference next season? Let me know in the comments. But I think I would put them in that 4-5 range, maybe 6. If you think Detroit and Orlando really take a leap, maybe 6. But either way, they're not in the play-in, right? Just goes to show you like how deep this roster is. Let's just quickly, the Knicks, I mentioned them a couple of times. They got eliminated from the playoffs over the weekend. The Indiana Pacers are going to the NBA Finals. So Pacers or Thunder, one organization is getting their first NBA title in history. And I'm going to tell you right now, probably OKC in 5. I know the Pacers-Knicks series was a lot of fun, really spicy. Once the Celtics got eliminated, I think the door was just freaking wide open for the Oklahoma City Thunder to win their first title. I'm not counting the Sonics title as a Thunder title. You got to win your own title. But it's their second time appearing in the NBA Finals. If you remember the KD, James Harden, who else am I missing? Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, back from 2012. So, I don't know. I'm taking Thunder in 5. I'm sure it'll be a fun game. I thought the Eastern Conference Finals was a lot of fun, but there was a part of me that was just sick to my stomach knowing that the Celtics, if they did not just choke out those first 2 games at the Garden, that they would be out there in the NBA Finals right now. I have no doubt about that. And if for any Knicks fan that somehow watches that and you're like, yeah, but you did choke it out. Well, I'm hearing Knicks fans have the same conversation right now, being like, if we didn't just fall apart in game 1. I get it, man. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the pain. I can't think of something else that rhymes with pain. The pain vein? That sounds gross. Nah, just welcome to feeling bad, I guess is what I'm saying. So anyways, that's what we got for you today. We'll ear to the ground to see if we get any more Windhorse dimes over the week. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for the Celtics Daily. Do me a favor again. I said it at the top. I'll say it again. Hit the subscribe before you get out of here. Let me know. Do you think Giannis is coming to Boston? Thanks for watching.